What's up, and welcome in to UP Power with Keegan Cooper and Kevin McNulty. Keegan, we got a lot to get to. Week one of high school football. Man, was Thursday night fun. We had a full weekend of college football. That's mostly what I did on this Labor Day weekend. Worked Labor Day yesterday. Watched Bill Belichick and his Tar Heels stink up the joint last night. But we're starting Thursday, and we're starting in Negaunee because what a scene that was for Marquette and Negaunee facing each other for the first time in 8 years. It was a long time coming. I said we've waited since 2017 for that matchup, and I think it really lived up to the billing for most of it. Negaunee was more prepared to get out there week one than Marquette because it took the Sentinels a little bit to find a rhythm on offense through the air. They didn't throw the ball much until they were chasing and needed to come back, and they did. And it got real interesting there late. But the game was really won in the second quarter, I would say, when Evan Delangelo, junior wide receiver for the Miners, went off.
Yeah.
Long touchdown pass from Kyle Waterman to Delangelo. Then he had another one where Waterman ended up punching it in at the goal line to get their second touchdown. And then after Marquette responds, a 35-yard rush for a touchdown from Goodwin, boom, Delangelo on the kickoff. And then all of a sudden, it is 30-14. At halftime, the Miners end up having to hang on in the second half. They didn't score in the second half, but their defense showed up, and they got an early turnover. Ford Richardson fumbled on Marquette's first drive. That was huge. And then Marquette, with the interception in the fourth quarter, it was Richardson going back, and that was one of the highlights we had on Friday Night Fever on Thursday. That helped Marquette get that last touchdown, cut it to 8, and then they end up with the ball back. Now, Negaunee couldn't run out the clock, but they did get it down to 12 seconds, so it was 2 plays for Marquette. That hook and ladder play, I told you when I got back, it was almost 90 seconds from start to finish. A lot of the linemen were pretty gassed by the end of it. There was a lot of laundry on the field, but Robin Martela, shout out my guy, who was the referee, the white hat on that night, which was a really funny image because I'm used to seeing him in full Mountaineers get up, coaching Iron Mountain on the sidelines. A little different occupation he is hanging out with this fall, but he was very, very happy to call the game over because a lot of those penalties were on Marquette. Your impressions from what was a great way to kick off the season there in Negaunee?
Yeah, I think a long time coming, right? I think the hype around this game was truly special, and to see both teams back out there in action and a competitive game, right? I mean, I know Negaunee gets the lead early in the first half, but they didn't score in the second half, and Marquette was chasing. They did have a chance to come back, so that was really exciting. I think it's interesting, and I know you said it, and I totally agree. Negaunee was more prepared to be out there on the field in week one. Marquette will have some things to kind of work through.
Which I thought I had more questions about Negaunee coming in.
Yeah.
And they're throwing the ball.
Yeah,
a lot. Waterman really looked the part. He's a junior who was the JV quarterback, was not up on varsity, so we really hadn't seen it. We've seen the kid on the basketball court. He's darn good. He's a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. Like I said, he looked the part. And also very happy for Jeff Nemi, getting a win in his first game as head coach. That guy was fired up. Well, right after he was fired up at his team on that hook and ladder, stopping for a little bit. There was no whistles for a long time, but after he was able to breathe a sigh of relief, he was fired up to get that win over a rival, raise up the Diamond Jubilee trophy for the first time in 8 years, and it's been sitting in Marquette's trophy case for 8 years.
Yeah.
So I know Negaunee is glad to have that one back. Absolutely great scene out there. Really enjoyed seeing it. We'll get to college, is where you were hanging out Thursday night. We had Tech and Northern both at home. But from 11-man, your other impressions from week one, I think outside of the Marquette-Negaunee game, you have to go to Escanaba.
Yeah, you do.
and talk about what the Eskimos did.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it has to be an upset. It really does. I think looking
Kingsford
on
was
paper,
undefeated
yeah,
in the regular season last year.
yeah, and Escanaba comes in, hangs tough with them, gets the go-ahead touchdown, and then that defensive stop at the end where, Kingsford's throwing the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Escanaba gets it.
Yeah.
And the
And it's a
Eskimos
pick
walk
for
out.
Keegan Braun.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. And a close game, 21-18. Could have gone either way.
A comeback victory, too. I think the tough part for Kingsford is probably that they left points on the board.
Yeah.
They scored 3 touchdowns, only 18 points. No extra points. They did not get any of their 2-point attempts. I don't know if they tried an extra point on one of those, but they left points on the board, and that's the difference. It's a comeback win for Escanaba. They had things going. That's a team we talked about in the preseason. They were 5-4 a year ago. Mm-hmm. It would be nice for them to get a non-conference win before you're playing. Some of those teams in that Big North Conference are tough. Others you would say Escanaba should win some of those games. The Sioux didn't really impress Friday night. They should be able to win that one. But yeah, great start for Escanaba, and you got to think there's a really good path to the playoffs for the Eskimos now. Mm-hmm. And for Kingsford, I think you just kind of pick up the pieces, figure out what went wrong, and move on to the next, because I think they're too talented to have more games like that.
Yeah.
And credit to the Escanaba defense, didn't allow a point in the second half either.
Yeah.
I believe it was 18-6 at halftime, so a heck of a comeback win for the Eskimos. Kingsford goes on the road to Houghton this week. That's another 11-player game where thought Houghton definitely had a decent chance at Iron Mountain. Very young team, new quarterback, new coach, and the Mountaineers were the Mountaineers. It's something I said when we were there in the preseason. This program doesn't look a whole lot different.
Yeah.
A lot of new faces, new lines, a lot of juniors on the lines, junior quarterback, Braden Casson, but man, same old from the Mountaineers.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And I think Houghton can have a really good season. They're losing a little bit. Ruben Mensah moving on to play at Tech. Quarterback's different. You gotta kind of shuffle through that early in the season before it gets too late, and you don't have the time to do that. Gladstone, Friday night, tough overtime loss. I give the Braves a lot of credit for having to go from a home game on the schedule against Quinn in week 1. Then they're going down to Cadillac to meet Durand, who I assume also had a game canceled. That's why they were available to play. Glad they got a game in, but an overtime loss in week 1 that's a tough deal for a team that I believe only won 1 game last year.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing to do, and you think all week you're prepping for one team, things change. Now you got to turn and prep for another team. That's a tough go of it. But credit for them to getting out there, playing it tough, getting it to overtime. It doesn't fall your way this time.
A team we mentioned as a dark horse in the Westpac had a really good showing Thursday night. Calumet blowing out West Iron County. Mm-hmm. We still don't know a ton about the Copper Kings, but you like what they did week 1, taking care of business there. We'll see what they do at home in week 2. Who do they have coming up to Calumet? Westwood, which is a good segue to the Westwood Bark River game. And Bark River Harris just kept putting on points.
Yeah.
They wouldn't stop, and the Westwood defense back on its heels all night. We know the Patriots have pretty darn good talent with Ethan Marta at quarterback, and Louis Salmi caught that deep touchdown pass, but credit to the Broncos coming in there, and they just didn't take their foot off the gas.
Yeah, I mean, 52 points in an 11-player game, that's pretty nice. It was kind of a who's going to score more, and in this case, Bark River had their foot on the gas and was able to put up 52. They win that 52-38. This game this week, I think, is an interesting one. Calumet Westwood, a team. Yeah. Calumet knows Westwood's not going to roll over, right? So, who's going to keep that momentum through those 4 quarters and be able to find success?
I would agree. That is an interesting one. And Keegan, if we were putting together a UP poll today. We don't know a ton. It's 1 week in. We'll have our first UP poll after week 3. If we put it together today, an 11-man, I think Menominee would be number 1 in my book. What they went and did to Marinette, I believe they're 7th in a row over the Marines. So they are used to winning that battle.
Yeah.
But they showed up, and Tanner Turkoff might be the best quarterback in the UP this year. He's a senior now. Obviously, his brother was the quarterback when they went downstate to Ford Field 2 years ago. I just think that team is really, really solid top to bottom, and they're going to be a problem for everyone else in the Westpac.
Yeah, I mean, they made the trip across the state line and kind of took care of business,
Yeah.
you know. And Tanner what was really interesting is watching him just air it out and guys go chase it.
Because he
down.
can.
Yeah, he can throw it. He had
Yeah.
a couple long, 60-yard passes that, Menominee just goes and gets. And, they put on a great show. And the Marines, not that they didn't have a chance, but it was kind of clear, Menominee goes up 3 scores really early. It was kind of clear, hey, we're here and we're taking care of business, and we're getting in another year.
Absolutely. I would put Negaunee right up there after their week 1 performance, but certainly very impressive from the Maroons in week 1. Now, this coming weekend, all the games are on Friday. I'm happy about that.
Woo!
Get a regular old Friday Night Fever with a lot of really good games. Marquette is home for Alpena. That should be a good get-right game, figure out what went wrong
yeah.
against the Miners, which there are a lot of things for Marquette to clean up. I
Yeah.
think the running game was a question coming in, and outside of a few that they broke, I mentioned the touchdown from Goodwin, it wasn't as solid as we saw last year
Yeah.
with Drew Bradley getting a lot of those carries. And I think Richardson had a little bit of rust. He didn't throw the ball much. And I don't know if that's a product of not having the same type of receivers he was throwing to a year ago. But they have Alpena at home this coming Friday, so that should be a good deal for the Sentinels to maybe get their first win. Bark River Harris visits Iron Mountain. It's an interesting game after what the Broncos did in week 1.
Yeah, not a gimme game.
I mentioned Kingsford going to Houghton. Flivers definitely want to improve to 1-1 in that one. Houghton, a team that lost at Iron Mountain. Menominee at Hancock is canceled because the Bulldogs are struggling with injuries, not enough players to play that one. So Menominee, I believe, was supposed to have an update today if they were able to get a game scheduled. So we will update that one accordingly as we move forward. Negaunee visits Gladstone. I think that's another win for the Miners. Can't guarantee it, but Gladstone took team to overtime in week 1. Don't know much about Durand, but the Braves definitely showed a lot more than they showed most of last year in week 1. So that won't be an easy one for the Miners going in there. Escanaba has Cadillac at home. That'll be tough, but nice for the Eskimos to stay home. And we mentioned the Westwood Calumet game. Now, talking 8-man and talking Thursday night, Newberry goes into Forest Park and gets a win.
Yeah.
And didn't necessarily expect that. It was 22-20. Dax Hookey was cramping a lot. That's the other thing about week 1. So many cramps.
Yeah.
The 2 games I watched, you had it with Negaunee, guys dealing with it in the second half. It was just clear to see that these guys were cramping their muscles, just not quite ready for the load of a season. They go through preseason camp, they go through these scrimmages, but it's not necessarily full speed, and it wasn't even that hot. Usually you would attribute that to, humid air or, hot weather. That wasn't the case, but saw it at Negaunee, saw it at Ishpeming. Apparently it was happening to Forest Park, and they were without some key players for a good chunk of the game. Now, I don't think they're interested in making excuses. They didn't get it done against a team that was 2-7 last year, but certainly an opportunity for the Trojans to turn around this week with Ishpeming coming in.
Yeah, no, and they have to, right? I mean, cat's out of the bag now, right? They're not going to have their quarterback, Vic Giuliani. So for these guys, it's who's going to step up and fill that, that missing place, right? Or that hole, if you will, right? And I know they have their backup quarterback is in, and I know Dax Hookey, he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to have to carry the load for the Trojans, specifically offensively. And then defensively, it's, okay, maybe we're not going to be able to hold teams scoreless, but we got to limit what they can do with football. And it's another big test.
Absolutely, and we'll get to the team that they have at the end of their schedule, that being the North Central Jets. But I mentioned what is our game of the week, Ishpeming at Forest Park, a celebration of both teams' 1975 state championship teams. Forest Park won in Class D, I believe. Ishpeming won in Class C that year. That was 50 years ago, so they are celebrating those two teams on Friday night in Crystal Falls, which will be very cool to have a lot of those guys back from back in the day. I think that was the very first year of the state playoffs. It being a full-on tournament, you're not just going undefeated and claiming a state championship. So that was 1975. 50 years later, they will gather in Crystal Falls this weekend. As for Ishpeming, I was at their game Friday night. Ontonagon was in there. First play from scrimmage, the Gladiators throw it 55 yards to the house. Thought we were going to see a lot of offense after that. Not the case. 21-14 final, Ontonagon over Ishpeming, and Ishpeming didn't have a lot going. I think there's a lot of opportunity between week 1 and week 2. You hear it all the time in college, like just because you don't have, the preseason, regular, swing of things that you have now. Yeah. And players experiencing what it's like to go game speed and not have to hold yourself back a little bit like you naturally do, human nature, in the preseason. So we'll see what Ishpeming comes out with. They ran the ball with Grady Gauthier as their quarterback quite a bit on Friday night. Didn't yield a lot of success. Like I said, just the 2 touchdowns, and one of them was really, really late where they even had to try an onside kick after that. Didn't go their way. Ontonagon ran out the clock, and really, really good showing from Ontonagon, though, to start out the season. Come in there, play really solid defense. They had hats to the football on every single play. I mentioned Gauthier was trying to run it, but he didn't have many lanes. He broke free for about a 25-yard score in the first half. But outside of that, Ontonagon was buttoned up, and they were ready. So we'll see what they do. That is a very interesting game. This coming Friday, Newberry visits Ontonagon, a pair of 1-0 teams. Mentioned Forest Park welcoming Ishpeming, and how about North Central going into Munising and really taking care of the Mustangs?
Yeah, they're hungry for it, right? North Central, it's been too long since they've won a state title, right?
Been 3 whole years.
Yeah, so they're back to, I think, what made North Central so dominant is
they have a system.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna score 50 points, and you either score 50 points.
Because they block better than anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, do the math. 8-man football, if you got 5 guys holding blocks, you got a lane to the end zone.
Yeah. So they took care of business. I think that Munising figuring things out. I think that really is what week 1 of high school football is for some of these teams, especially with all the changes.
But you only got 9 weeks.
You only got 9 weeks, so you got to figure it out.
And Marquette,
now.
although they were in Division II, proved last year you can go 6-3 and not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that is certainly a challenge for all these teams.
Maybe you get week 1 and now you got to figure things out. I think Munising, because they don't have Jack Dussault and Keenitz and Trevor.
Yeah, those guys whose names we said all the time.
So they got to kind of right the ship and figure it out. Hopefully they do that in week 2. North Central, if I'm North Central, or if I'm playing them, you got to be ready because they're going to come and they're going to be hungry and ready to go.
Well, hey, outside of the Ishpeming Forest Park game, we got another really good 8-player game in Powers. North Central hosting Norway. Yeah. And Norway really beat up on Stevenson in week 1. And that's a team, new head coach, Andy Mendina, a guy who's been around the program. Obviously, they hit the ground running in week 1, but it could be a different story when you're going up against North Central.
Yeah, and that team for a long time now, I think, has been on the cusp of doing something really, really special. big test for them in week 2. They kind of get the appetizer in week 1, and they come out and they get a big win. But this one, this is going to show. I know it's the second week of the regular season, but when you have these big matchups, it shows, hey, we're going to be able to win these big games late in the season. Maybe I give Norway the edge because I think they throw the ball a little bit more than North Central does, and I think that opens things up offensively. So maybe give me the Knights.
Yeah, having two different, threats when you can throw it through the air, that definitely makes a difference. Like I said, that is certainly a marquee matchup in 8-man this Friday. We'll have all the action for you on Friday Night Fever, but what a week 1. We had a lot of really competitive games.
Yeah, and I think that's...
I don't know if I remember a Friday night, or in this case a Thursday night, where so many games were that close.
Yeah, it's usually not. It's usually 40
Which
to 10.
There were a bunch of those, in 8-man. It's just so easy to end up running the score up.
Yeah.
Against two teams that aren't necessarily even in terms of talent. But yeah, you got the Kingsford-Escanaba game. You had the Marquette-Nagani game. You had Bark River Westwood. Westwood made it a two-possession game in the second half. Really competitive. I hope that keeps up. We'll see as we go forward, but we're excited for another Friday night of football here in the UP this Friday. We got to talk college.
Yeah.
And we'll start with you. I was not at either of those games. You made it to Northern Thursday night, 21-0. What's going on at the Dome? The Wildcats are on top. Jack's hurdle, pick 6. These guys are rolling. And then the challenge for the Cats was, we've never played with a lead.
Yeah.
And no one.
No one.
On that team.
Yeah, no.
Unless they transferred from someone, no one on that team had ever played with a lead.
Yeah.
And I think that showed.
Yeah, I think it showed because,
And by the way, Shane Richardson admitted that in the press conference today. These guys need to learn how to handle success.
Yeah. 3 fumbles, that does you in. I think that's like the nervousness.
They threw a pick late when they were just trying to catch back up when they were down. Yeah.
But man, was it exciting and enjoyable to watch that offense move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
They dominated the game on the ground.
Yeah, 307 yards on the ground, I believe.
Versus Moorhead was not over 100.
Yeah, no. They just threw the ball in the air. And that is what got them back in the game. You look at their quarterback, Strand, he's one of the top in all Division II.
Shane mentioned him this afternoon as potentially like an NFL talent.
Yeah,
which is high praise, and you might think he's crazy because he's talking about a Division II quarterback, but a Division II quarterback just made $10 million in the NFL with the Chicago Bears. Yeah. So it's not a crazy thing to think. When he said that, and then you watch some of the tape, and you look at the numbers he put up,
you can see
it's not crazy to say that, because that is absolutely why they were able to get back in that game in pretty short order, right? It was 27-15 at the half, and then when the offense slowed down a little bit, the defense was back on its heels, not turning it over, and the fumbles are the reason they lost.
Yeah, it's
if they fumble once instead of 3 times, they probably win the game.
Yeah, because they had a 2-touchdown lead. They had a 2-score lead.
Yeah.
Just for frame of reference here, Jack Strand, 35 of 48 for 336 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now, he did throw 1 interception. That's pick 6 at Jack's hurdle, and he was sacked 3 times.
It wasn't all bad for the defense.
No, it wasn't all bad. Jack's hurdle,
the other thing is the defense has been going up against a run option offense for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's all they've seen. So you give them a little bit of leeway there. Now, college football doesn't do you any favors. You got to go out there and you got to go down to Northwood this weekend. They don't have any long trips. I think their only game outside of the state of Michigan is at Roosevelt's in Chicago. So their schedule from a travel perspective is pretty kind.
Pretty nice, yeah.
So they got to go down to Northwood this Saturday, a team that hasn't played yet, So it's kind of the same deal in your preparation. You only have tape of last year.
Yeah.
So that is both a good thing. We're the ones with a game under our belts. We know what we are for the time being going into week 2.
Yeah.
Better than Northwood does because they have not played yet. But at the same time, in NMU's preparation, they don't have anything to go off of. Really, that's something concrete. It's from last year.
Yeah.
So that's both a blessing and a significant challenge.
Yeah, I think for me, I was super impressed with Thursday of how they came out and played because, it's hard to judge a team of, oh, well, they haven't won a game in 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't gotten any better. They got better, right? They moved the ball on the ground.
It certainly
They were
has
in
to
that
feel
game.
good in that
Yeah.
building, in those meeting rooms this week that we can confidently say we're better.
Yep.
They're going to win a game this year.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Yeah.
I think it might be this Saturday, actually. Because in the GLIAC, maybe they can get one off of Davenport, but Davenport's a stout team,
yeah.
usually. Because they're unscheduled twice. It's home and away, and then you obviously look to the Roosevelt game because that one went to OT last year. But yeah, the morale has to be much improved. I mean, they can say it to me when I'm there in the preseason that it feels different, but how much do I even buy that? How much do the fans buy that?
Yeah.
They have no reason to believe that's true. Now they do, and now we do because we watched it.
Yeah.
But they didn't win.
They didn't win. And
So at the end of the day, they didn't do anything, but it just has to feel better
yeah.
going into practice every day, being like, oh, yeah, we're a real football team.
Yeah. Now my
Seriously.
Yeah. Now my hope is that they don't fumble 3 times every single game, but what is concerning to
Well,
me.
they can. They're going to keep losing.
Yeah, is if they do that, is they had 300 yards of offense on the ground and lost. And in the end of the game, when they're trying to play catch-up, they hadn't thrown the ball all game.
Mm-hmm.
So then they throw it. Yeah, they throw an interception late, and it seals it. But where is the fine line of mixing in those, you get into a close game late in this, late in the game, late in the season, and you can't throw the football down the field. You're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Now, I'm not saying that they're not breaking off for huge runs. They did. It was clear on Thursday that they could move the ball on the ground. But when you play the Grand Valleys and the Ferrises that are going to pick apart the film from the last 6 games,
you think how much that snowballs in those type of games when you're just going 3 and out.
Yeah.
Then you got to turn over your defense, and it's Ferris. It's a national championship team.
Yeah. So where is the?
But they don't have to worry about that for a while. Northwood,
Yeah.
St. Thomas will be tough.
Tough.
St. Thomas is always
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So they come in week 3. But yeah, that's true. That is another challenge I think that showed in the Roosevelt game last year. Now we're in a close game. How do we win this?
Yeah.
And they weren't able to do it then. And then on Thursday night, we have a lead. What do we do with it? How do we hold on to it? And they weren't able to.
It was watching that game when Northern goes up 21-0. I
can see it in your face right now.
I was kind of in shock because I've been at their games we've been at a lot of their games, if not watched every single game. We've talked to their players, we've talked to their coaches. I was enamored beyond what I had seen, and so now I am, Team Northern Michigan. I have now seen the change, and I want it to happen. I do believe they're going to get a win too, because I didn't see that the last 2 years. I didn't, and
well, usually it's the other way around. They were down 21-0. The game's already over.
Yeah.
In this case, they were up 21-0. You had to hang on, bite your nails. And they ended up losing it.
I am curious to see who starting quarterback becomes. I think we saw 2 looks. We saw Trevor Turkoff. I know he was one of the 3 named, but we saw him at receiver on Thursday. I think that's
he
where
had
he's
one
gonna
catch
stay.
for 6 yards. I think that volume will increase. I mean, they ran the ball with a lot of different guys. I think Nico Lukarainen from Negaunee is their short yardage, 3rd, 4th down guy.
Yeah.
He had a touchdown punching it in from one. I mean, that guy's built. He's not necessarily a track star out there. So he's a kind of their short yardage guy. I think they'll continue that, and they probably should.
I think Wood's
I was talking to Shane today. I think they will continue to have Shovald in there on snaps where they want to throw. He threw the ball 14 times, was the only one who threw a pass. He said there's not really a set number with how many times they want to throw it. I asked, is like 15 the target sometimes, and it depends on the game plan and how the game is going. But I would expect, because he's not overly confident in one of the guys, meaning Duke Shovald and Austin Riddle, where it's going to be Shovald getting a lot of the snaps where they expect to pass, and it's going to be Riddle being the option quarterback. And I think as long as that doesn't become too predictable, meaning,
if Riddle's in, they're running it.
Opposing defenses sees it on tape, I would think they'll have to disguise it a little bit more, but I do expect that to kind of be the plan going forward, because he expressed, I don't have enough confidence in just one of these guys to do everything that we want to accomplish on offense. And credit to them, the offense wasn't the issue outside of turning the ball over.
Yep.
Let's go to Houghton, because that is a team that we know can do some damage in the GLIAC this year. And why do we know that? Because they beat the 16th ranked team by 20 points, and they outscored them 21-0 in the second half. And we talked on Thursday night, going into those highlights, that we were pretty high on Tech coming into this year. 7-4 last year is year 2 under Dan Metlack. They made a 2-game improvement from year 1 to year 2. They were in a couple of those games a year ago that maybe they could have won, and then you're talking about a 9-1 season going to the playoffs. I think that should be the goal for this team, is to get to the playoffs, win 9 games, and get there. Why not after the way they started?
Yeah, why not us? That's saying that they go.
Are you going to beat both Grand Valley and Ferris? No, probably not. But if you beat one of them,
and you beat everybody else,
or you lose to both of them and you beat everyone else.
Yeah.
There's a recipe for a playoff type season. Now, what we saw, starting with the offense, then we'll get to the defense and who's leading that defense. Alex Bueno, we watched. You were out in 2 of their practices. I never made it up there, but he's mobile.
He is mobile,
and he can run the ball. And you said that, and sure enough, he's their leading rusher, over 100 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Yeah. In addition to his 188 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. I mean,
pretty darn impressive.
He's an athletic kid that can move. He's the GLIAC Player of the Week for what he did on Thursday night. And they didn't get too greedy. They didn't get overly creative, because I'm thinking they ran essentially the same play for 2 touchdowns. And around to Ethan Champney first, and then it was Nick Nora. Now, Dan Metlack might tell me I'm crazy that it's not the same play.
Looked like the same play.
It looked like the same deal with different personnel.
Yeah.
And Nick Nora had 2 touchdowns. Offensively, they go out and put 37 points on Bemidji. Remember, they only scored 13 last year, and they lost in overtime. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me Bemidji's much worse than they were last year, maybe marginally, because they lost by 20 to Tech here. But they were ranked coming in.
Yeah, still a top 20 team, yeah.
And still, they're always going to be in the mix in that conference. Mm-hmm. So what a showing for Tech. First ranked win in 6 years.
Yeah. You get one back from a year ago that you want back. 2024 they lose in overtime to Bemidji, and 2025 you get them back. The big one for me now about, getting to that 9-2 or 8-3 record, continuing improvement, is this game they've got coming up on Thursday.
I agree. South Dakota Mines lost week 1. That was another overtime game, perhaps the craziest game I've ever seen. It went to 4 overtimes. Final score was like 50-48. But South Dakota Mines lost in week 1. That was a game, obviously, they came out on top of in overtime, 4 overtimes last year. But, that's a long road trip.
Yeah.
That's the western part of the state of South Dakota. They're on mountain time, because I was reaching out to the guy to get some highlights. Thursday. That's a Thursday night game. It's not a short week, right? Because they played last Thursday.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have an extra long week. They'll have 9 days in between games after this game. So another Thursday night game. I agree. Just going on the road will be tough. How do they do it on the road?
Yeah, and I mean, it's their first, obviously week 1 was a test. You had a top 25 team coming in, but you got a team that you took to 4 overtimes. And it might be, I would say last year, this South Dakota Mine Games was their most physically demanding game because of the length and how long it was and how many overtimes it was. Avoid taking it to overtime, right? Get in there, take care of business, and when the fourth quarter is over, the fourth quarter is over. I think overtime games are such a flip of a coin.
Well, they are in college, and I hate the 2-point conversions after the third overtime because how many 2-point 2-yard goal line plays do teams have in?
Yeah, maybe 1, maybe 2.
It's definitely no more than like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So once you get to a certain point with that, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Georgia Tech last year was decided on 2-point conversions. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Can we play real football? I like this starting at the 25-yard line. I really dislike the third overtime. We're doing 2-point conversions because it's hardly football.
Yeah.
After a while, it gets repetitive. So I agree with you there. I think Tech goes on the road and takes care of business.
Yeah.
I'm just extremely confident in this group, and the defense shuts out the Beavers in the second half.
Pretty impressive.
And their one captain on defense, Dante Baznese from Iron Mountain, he led the team. He had 86 tackles last year. Didn't look at the numbers from Thursday night, but that was a group on that side of the ball. I had some question marks because they lost a lot. Mark Sipple, granted they were somewhat used to playing without him because he was banged up a lot, and Hunter Beagle was the other defensive back they had flying around a lot last year. So that unit really showed up on Thursday, and that team really impressed both of us. 37-17 over Bemidji. Heck of a way to start the season. All right. What a weekend of Division I college football. Where to begin? I think we begin with our picks because, Keegan, we might be geniuses.
We might be.
Both of us go 3-1 in our first week picking games. It's all college games. We picked the Michigan game Saturday night, Bryce Underwood's debut against the New Mexico Lobos in the Big House. And
I think
it was a mixed bag from Michigan. I took the Lobos to cover 34.5. Bang. Got that one done. Just because Michigan week 1, 18-year-old freshman quarterback, 8-5 last year. I don't think they were going to win by 40, and they didn't. But it was kind of a mixed bag. What did you take, the over in that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Bang.
Bang, yeah.
And I think there was good and bad with Underwood. Nothing to be overly concerned about, nothing to be
overly
enamored with. I mean, you might be enamored because he's such a high-profile recruit, and it costs a lot of money to get him, and you expect him to be really good, and I think he will be. It's just his first start, and lucky for him, it was at home. We'll get to a couple quarterbacks that had to go on the road for their first start, and that didn't go so well. Big test for Michigan this weekend. I haven't seen the new AP poll, but Michigan was 14 preseason. Oklahoma got to go to Norman, Sharon Moore's alma mater, and they looked really good with their new quarterback, John Mateer, who's getting some Heisman talk after transferring from Washington State. So, big test for Michigan in week 2 in Norman. College game day will be there. I think that game will tell us a lot about who Michigan is this year. Mainly, can they be a playoff team?
Yeah, can they beat another ranked opponent? Right now, I guess ESPN, Michigan, they are ranked 15th, Oklahoma coming into that game at 18th. So 2 top 20 teams.
So Oklahoma didn't move, Michigan went back one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the question of how good is Bryce Underwood going to be, and is he going to take him to the playoffs in his first year? Maybe.
We'll find out a lot on Saturday.
We just gotta
Now, a
wait.
big thing that Michigan is not happy about, Big Ten is not happy about, because this is a Big Ten SEC non-conference battle now. It means a lot for the conferences. The Big Ten has really picked up a lot of ground on the SEC, having the past 2 national champions in Michigan and Ohio State. Jayshon Barham, Michigan's probably best defender, linebacker, transfer from Maryland. Targeting call in the third quarter of that game upheld. He's suspended for the first half.
So they went
How
for
much
30
does that
minutes.
impact the Michigan defense?
Yeah.
Michigan's obviously pretty convinced it's going to impact them very negatively. I mentioned he's probably their best defender.
Yeah.
A linebacker, he's uber quick, can get to the quarterback, and a lot of people didn't like the targeting call in the first place. Everyone goes back and forth on those targeting calls. The rule should be more definitive. I think by definition it was, crown of the helmet. And I guess the suspension is just a byproduct of when that penalty took place in the game. So that's just the storyline to have in there for Michigan playing without their best defensive player for 30 minutes against Oklahoma, which should be, and based on week 1, looks like it's a much improved Sooners team with their transfer quarterback I mentioned, John Mateer. So that'll be a fun one. Michigan State, thank gosh we didn't pick this game, because that was a bad beat. Michigan State up 23 late. Backup quarterback comes in for Aiden Childs, throws a pick 6 to a guy that played on Michigan State for 4 years and transferred to Western, gets a pick 6 in his old stadium against his old teammates. Really funny. So I guess the final score ended up being 23-7.
6-7, yeah.
But good start for Michigan State. I don't think there's anything crazy takeaways from a game over Western Michigan.
Yeah.
Did pretty much what they were expected to do. Nick Marsh looked good on the touchdown. He wasn't that involved, but
I think he will get more as they play different.
I think they wanted to run the ball a little bit more. Nobody's talking about Michigan State. I think they like that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think they're a playoff team or a team that will contend for a Big Ten championship, because you have Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah.
Same deal pretty much every year. But could they knock off
one of those?
Some of the upper echelon teams in the Big Ten? I think there's a case to be made that they can. We'll widen up our lens. Noon on Saturday, Texas and Ohio State. Lee Corso, shout out the GOAT.
Yeah.
6 for 6 on his picks. Last headgear pick was the exact same as his first headgear pick. Ohio State, I believe that was back in 1995. The first time he did that, 110,000 people giving a standing ovation to this guy that's meant so much to the sport. That was really, really sweet to have that moment there in Columbus. And then it was time to play the game. And Texas is number 1 overall in the preseason for the first time ever, which is rather shocking. Texas has never been ranked number 1 going into a season. Arch Manning is the new quarterback, and he started a couple games, but never made a start and only took 6 snaps outside of Texas Stadium in his career. So when I give you that background, and you take away his last name, right? That's the exercise that a lot of people have been doing.
Yeah.
Let's pretend his last name was Jones. So Arch Jones goes in there in his first career road start, and he plays pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, yeah, that's a guy making his first career road start in Columbus, first weekend of the season. Yeah, I would expect it's not going to go that well for him, no matter if his team is really good. But his name is Arch Manning, so everyone had Heisman, number 1 overall pick, and he started 3 or 4 games against not so good teams and came in relief of win yours last year only on occasion. So he goes in there, and I was really, I think, shocked more by the game plan from Steve Sarkisian than anything else. He didn't let Arch do much, and I don't understand that. I understand it to a degree because Ohio State has they have the best defensive player in the country, in my opinion, Caleb Downs. And he's back there. You have to know where he is on every single play. So I get a little bit being conservative, but let the kid play. It felt like he was in a straitjacket for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
He throws the pick in the second half, and he missed a lot of throws. That was surprising to me, but then you give it the context of he's going to play in Ohio State. They just won a national championship, and it's his first start on the road. And then you're like, yeah, it makes sense how he played, but it was still surprising to see him miss that many throws.
Yeah.
And I think the worst one was the second to last play of the game, not the 4th and 5, the 3rd and 5 throw, where his footwork, and I'm not a quarterback whisperer, but his footwork looked off. He threw off his back foot, and he threw it a million miles an hour, didn't lead his receiver. That was bad, and that was surprising.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he put up over 100 yards in the fourth quarter alone, led him on that touchdown drive, the one that was upheld to the tight end in the end zone. So there were things you could take away from the fourth quarter and be like, oh, that's the guy we all expected to see. But I think outside of that, the game plan hurt him because they just were too conservative. And then there were a bunch of missed throws that I didn't necessarily expect. The interception, the 3rd and 5 I referenced, that was surprising to me. But when you think about it and give it the context, it's understandable what happened there in Columbus.
Yeah, and I think what people get clouded is, oh, his last name is Manning. He should be as good as Peyton, and that.
This is his first time starting on the road.
He's
never been the full-time starter.
Yeah, it's got to be a tough go of it. Because
so you get it.
Get it, but it's like. But week 2 now he's got to be better. You're not going to be playing the national champ.
They have 2 gimme games at home before they have to go on the road again and play in the swamp.
Yeah.
So that might not be very fun. So they'll have to cover a lot of ground the next couple of weeks. Sam Houston State and somebody else. Now Ohio State, everyone's talking about Belichick last night. How about, and Lions fans definitely don't like this name, but Matt Patricia being the defensive coordinator for OSU and doing what they did to Arch. And that's talented. I mean, it was a lot of pro-type scheming. This guy has been in the NFL for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think the last time he coached in college was the early 2000s. So it's like 20 years of NFL defense schematics with a lot of NFL talent. Guys like Caleb Downs, and they have that other defensive back, Styles, maybe. I mean, those guys were flying around, and they made. I'm getting on Sark for play calling. I'm getting on Manning for the missed throws, but they made it so difficult on him.
Yeah.
And man, why can't Ohio State run it back?
Yeah.
If their defense is that good, Julian Sayin was not asked to do too much. I thought on the flip side of the game plan for Texas, not doing Arch any favors. I thought everything that Ohio State put in without their 2 NFL running backs in Henderson and Judkins, who were both second-round picks, both of those guys, they still had a running game, and Sayin was comfortable out there in his first career start. Now, he was a very high recruit, too, started at Alabama. But Ohio State looked like they just picked up right where they left off. And they only won 14-7, but they were playing the number 1 overall team in a rematch of the college football playoff semifinal. So, darn good start for Ohio State. We'll see who they are come November. And they got to go into the big house. I think before then, they're rolling.
Yep.
But they do have Penn State on the schedule before that. So that's the next time we'll really dig deep on Ohio State and know what they are in terms of potentially being a repeat national champion. Saturday night, LSU Clemson. Fun game.
Fun game, yeah.
Gotta like the LSU Tigers. First time they won their season opener under Brian Kelly. Last time they won their season opener was Joe Burrow's last year, 2019, when they were one of the best college teams ever. Quickly on that game, Garrett Nussmeier, Heisman.
Yeah.
But he looks so comfortable. He's a pro quarterback. I think the New Orleans Saints, if they're tanking, they have somebody in mind, and it would be Garrett Nussmeier. Because he at the line of scrimmage, calling a lot of things off, checking a lot at the line of scrimmage like a pro does in a really tough environment. And talked about Arch going on the road to Ohio State in his first road start. That did not look like Garrett Nussmeier's first road start in the other Death Valley in Clemson, South Carolina. Really impressive, but, man, their defense was probably the difference against another veteran quarterback in Cade Klubnik on the other side with Clemson, a team who made the playoffs last year and returned, I think, the most starters of anyone in the playoff last year. So the fact that LSU went in there and kind of controlled the game with their defense and Nussmeier was cool, calm, and collected, look out for the Tigers.
Yeah, bodes well for them. I like their offense, too. I mean, Aaron Anderson, I'm just looking at stats here because I don't know their stuff. He had 99 yards
Yeah,
receiving.
you were working. Yeah.
Caden Durham, almost 100
Hey, they
yards
got
on
talent.
ground.
The issue has been for that. You forget, Jaden Daniels won the Heisman there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So their offense was outstanding there then. They were 9-3 that year. That was the last year of the 14 playoffs. So obviously they weren't in it. But the defense has really been the issue for the LSU Tigers of late. But if they change that, they will be making some noise come December and January. Moving on to Sunday and the big game in Miami, Sunday night, Notre Dame against the Hurricanes. Hurricanes with the transfer quarterback from Georgia and Carson Beck. Notre Dame going down there. C.J. Carr, Lloyd Carr's grandson. I think they said that on the broadcast about 50 million times. So if you watch the game, you know that. Lloyd Carr, obviously the legend from Michigan, Northern Michigan University alum. So there's a little UP tie down there in Miami this weekend. But it did not go the Irish's way. Give them a lot of credit. They hung in there.
Yeah.
But that Miami team, I think, looks better than last year. Now, of course, they were 9-0 last year before the defense really crapped out on them. But like LSU, their defense looked a lot better. And Carson Beck really looked the part at quarterback. So those are two teams you got to be almost highest on coming out of this weekend because they both got ranked wins. Now LSU may be a little bit more impressive because it was on the road, but Miami taking down Notre Dame at their own place, and they answered a lot of questions coming into this season. The ACC all of a sudden is pretty interesting. I think Notre Dame's fine. They have a fairly easy schedule outside of Texas A&M going forward. I still think they're a playoff team. Now, they can only afford a loss to Texas A&M going forward, I think.
Probably, yeah.
So if they're 10-2 with losses to Miami and Texas A&M, they're all right. Now, they went on the road and beat Texas A&M week 1 last year. So it's not like they can't do that. And they only had the loss to Northern Illinois before they went to the playoff last year. So I think Notre Dame's fine. C.J. Carr, really liked what I saw from that guy. He's a Michigan kid. He went to Saline High School outside Ann Arbor there, right in the neighborhood where his grandfather was the coach. His dad played there as well. Said Michigan didn't recruit him that much, which is interesting. Those were the Harbaugh years, I guess. He would have been going after J.J. and after that, old Bryce Underwood. But yeah, redshirt freshman, played pretty well. So that's a big takeaway from college football outside of Florida State over Alabama.
That's
How
wild.
shocking was it to see an Alabama team that was not disciplined and didn't give a lot of effort?
That was wild.
That is shocking. You never saw that for 15 years under Saban. And now, Kalen DeBoer in 13 games, 14 games, has lost to an unranked opponent 4 times. Nick Saban lost to an unranked opponent twice in his entire career at Alabama. These are just numbers that DeBoer's never going to recover from.
Yeah, and it's not like it was a close loss either.
They got whooped.
Yeah.
And Florida State was 2-10 last year. I think they're all the way back. That Castellanos guy they got from BC.
He's doing things, yeah.
Who gave Michigan State a lot of trouble when they played BC last year. MSU has Boston College at home this weekend. But, yeah, Castellanos, he looked a lot like Kyler Murray, a lot of people had to say. And I would agree with that. Very, very impressive showing from Florida State. Good to have college football back. We got to wrap up in the NFL. This is just going to be a full football pod. I don't think there's much Major League Baseball to talk about. The Tigers will clinch the division here soon. Brewers a little bit after that because the Cubs are still hanging around. We got to go to the NFL and wrap up there. And
it's here.
We buried the lead 55 minutes in. Micah Parsons is a Green Bay Packer.
Yeah.
How about that Thursday night, huh?
That just sit and process.
Also, weird moment for me that I wasn't the first one to see the news and break the news to other people. Shout out Jake Skews, Nagani's athletic director, immediately before I could even. I have Schefter notifications on. I'm ready to go whenever there's a big moment.
Same.
We talked about the Doncic trade. I had Shams. I was on it.
Yeah.
I probably texted you immediately. But yeah, Parsons trade, Jake yells at me, Packers got Parsons. And like there were rumblings the 72, 48 hours before. Gutekunst was asked about it, said I don't comment on players on other teams, respect it. But that was while he was doing the work, like, oh, you want Kenny Clark? And only 2 first rounders? What team doesn't do that deal?
Yeah.
I don't like the Super Bowl window talk, but where you have to line up the contracts, right?
Yeah.
And they just paid Love before last year, and so now you're working on his second contract, right? And you don't. What are the other contracts they have on the books? McKinney is a big one, and Josh Jacobs is the big one. And you don't want to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
Because then Jacobs is over 30, we got to go find another running back, or McKinney's over 30 and, our defensive backs just aren't as strong as they were before. So go do it. And I think they said, screw it, because the Packers aren't a team to give up their first-round picks. Because they like their first-round picks. You just take the biggest, beefiest lineman, and we're ready to go. Usually they drafted Matthew Golden in the first round this year. But I like it a lot for the Packers. I mean, how do you not?
Yeah.
So much money.
A lot of money.
$47 a year for defensive players, the most ever. But it's go time, right?
Yeah, if you're going to win, you got to win now. My concern for the Packers is their health, because they've not been healthy in the preseason. And who's going to be healthy
But
for
that's
week
every
1?
team, like, forget it. You got to play with the guys. No, I agree. We've talked about this. Like, they have been banged up, and they're wide receivers. I don't know what they're going to get. No idea. Now, does this put a lot more pressure on Jordan Love? Yes. Yes,
He's
it
gotta be
absolutely
good.
does. Because there's some uncertainty after last year. His first year as starter, he wins, 10, 11 games. They go to the playoffs, go down to Dallas and beat up on Parsons and the Cowboys. And, they're almost in the NFC Championship game. They almost beat San Francisco. And then last year he was hurt. When he was in there, he was throwing picks, and there was just not a lot of confidence going into the playoffs and having to go play the Eagles, and everyone kind of felt like they were going to lose that game, and they did. And now, from a fan's perspective, from a coach's perspective, from a front office's perspective, like, it's a quarterback league. We just went out and made your defense a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Yeah, I agree.
But back to your point, what is he working with on offense?
I mean, Matthew Golden, maybe you throw Romeo Dobbs, but you don't really trust him. You got Josh Jacobs, kind of.
I don't trust Dobbs at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I just this is not me hating on the Green Bay Packers, but I would be.
I love the
concerned.
tight ends. I think
Yeah.
Love in their high 12 personnel team. You're going to hear that a lot with Kraft and Musgrave because they're both really good.
Yeah.
And when they're out there at the same time, they don't always have to be out there at the same time, but that's tough to defend against.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Again, it's like us waiting. You know, we're gonna have to wait until week 1 because they're gonna play a ready-to-go Lions team.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't play well, we'll punch you in the mouth and bury you very
Who's the
quickly.
favorite in the division, in your eyes?
You know, first instinct, I want to say Lions, but everyone will say, oh, they have a new OC and a new DC, blah, blah, blah. Is it the Vikings? J.J. McCarthy?
You can't say that. No, I agree. The Vikings are very good, and they definitely have like a top 3 defense.
I would say it's the Lions. The Lions are my favorite.
I think it's the Packers now.
Yeah, I think for me, there's too many unanswered questions
do.
about the Packers' offense. Yeah, their
That's
defense
fair.
just got amazing,
That's fair.
so they may be, but
I can come up with questions about the Lions, and they're the same ones everyone's talking about.
yeah.
I've said on this podcast, they'll be fine. I think they're a playoff team.
You know
but I
what?
think the Packers win the division.
I'm not concerned about the weekend. I'm concerned about Friday when the Chiefs take on the Chargers.
In Sao Paulo.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned
I'm just
about.
really glad we don't have to run highlights of that game because I remember that last year. It was
Yeah.
a nightmare. It
It
started
was
at
a
like
nightmare trying to get it.
8:15. I don't even know if it made it on
I don't think
the
so.
show that night. It was on Netflix. We're like, how do we get the highlights from Netflix? We don't have to worry about that. But yeah, Friday night, Chiefs Chargers. Forgot about that one.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they're
It's going to be fun.
fine.
I think there's
Yeah.
4 potential playoff teams, and they'll get 2 for sure.
How do you
Probably 3.
feel? How do you feel about Chicago?
That's terrible news for. It's terrible news for the rest of the division. How do you think Jared Goff feels?
Yeah, probably not.
Like
very.
what?
I got to deal with Parsons. Now.
Can you- I would love to see the footage of Jared Goff checking his phone 5 o'clock on Thursday. Like, in 10 days, I'm gonna have that guy chasing after me.
Yeah.
Even though he's not 100% healthy, by the way, it's reported several places yesterday. He has a back sprain that he's going to get an epidural for, which is not out of the ordinary for the NFL. But he hasn't had much of a camp, so I wouldn't expect much from Parsons
Yeah.
week 1 this Sunday. I'll be there. Really looking forward to it. The Lions, briefly, Mum's kind of been the word. Probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Your questions around the offensive line looks a lot different. No Ragnow. Skipper's on the practice squad. New OC. How does that go? Well, they have Amon-Ra. They have Laporta. They have Goff. They have Gibbs. They have Montgomery.
They'll be all right.
Yeah, they'll be all right. There might be a bit of a curve there, but they'll be all right. And if the defense is healthy,
They'll be all right.
they'll be absolutely fine. So we'll see. Who do you like on Sunday?
Give me the Lions.
They won both the games last year.
Yeah. I mean, that's to me, it's just. give me the
Packers were
Lions.
1-5 in the division. I think the Packers have a lot to prove on Sunday, and they're at home.
Give me
I'll give them the edge going in. I imagine not a lot of Packers fans have given up their tickets. I think on those Thursday night games, I think it's been a weeknight. No, the game in Lambeau was wet Sunday. It was a wet November day. And the Thursday night game, I think a lot of Packers fans, this was 2 years ago, in 23, I think a lot of Packers fans gave up their tickets that day just because it's Thursday night. If you're driving from Milwaukee, Madison, or whatever, it's not happening. So there were a lot of Lions fans there that day. I think on Sunday, Packers are going to be really tight, and it's going to be a good home crowd. We'll see.
We'll see.
NFL football is here. High school football is here. Well underway. College football, same deal. Fantastic stuff. For Keegan Cooper, I'm Kevin McNulty. Thank you for joining us here on UP Power. Whether you're listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the TV6 YouTube channel as well. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.